everyone. My name is Charlie, and I run SkatePal, which you've seen here works in Palestine with skateboarding, building skate parks, giving skate classes, and generally trying to build a self-sustaining skateboard scene. If you could go to the next slide. I want to basically give you an overview of how things began, what we've done in Palestine, and then what we hope to achieve, because the objectives of what we tried to do have changed quite a lot from in the beginning to where we are at the moment. So just take you along the kind of journey that we had, and sort of explain to you what we hope to see in the future when I'm not going to be here anymore, like doing this. So the first project began in 2014. My brother Jack there in row G5, that seat, came out with me to help build a mini ramp. I'd been working in Palestine teaching English in a town in the north called Jenin for a few years, like after school, when I was about 19 in 2005 and 6. And the kids were kind of interested in the classes, but more interested in my skateboard. And I noticed this early on, so we went for a skate after class. And as you'll be aware, the climate in like Palestine politically is a lot more intense, obviously, than here, and the kids are exposed to a lot more than the kids here. So they're a lot more hardier, you could say. So when you bring a skateboard in, part of skateboarding is being kind of aggressive and being kind of hardy, like with yourself. So when I brought it out, the kids were just trying things that when you see kids in Scotland for the first time, they wouldn't try it. They would just see a hill and they would just bomb down the hill with like no pads and they would break their arm. And I was like, all right, take it easy. Like we have to, like learn how to move around a bit. But from the first time I went back then, you could see the excitement. You could see there was something new that they hadn't really like seen before. There was no cultural baggage attached to a skateboard because they didn't know what it was. So from that first moment on, I thought if someone were to come back with some more skateboards, it would be a successful sport because it didn't really exist. Over in like Israel, the other side of the wall, it was quite big because it's like they have lots of American companies building skate parks. Lots of skateboard teams and professional teams would do trips to Israel, but they would never go to Palestine because they wouldn't think it's worth going there. And so we tried to like change that at the beginning by doing our first skate camp here, which was in 2014 in the Sharik Forum in Ramallah. Have the next slide, please. So this is the original crew. This is me in the middle. This guy Aram was one of the first skaters in Palestine, and now he's our local manager. The other guy Majid, he still skates. Abdullah's in Berlin, and Mai is now studying in London. So this was the like initial team who kind of these people started skating maybe a few months before I began, and so they were kind of bemused that I was there to build a mini ramp because they were like, well, who's this for? Like no one really skates apart from us. And so it was pretty fun to see there was actually a few people that already had a skateboard in the country, and I met them here. So we used to hang out in this place in central Ramallah called the Plaza every evening after classes and became really good friends. I've just come back from a month with Aram working abroad, so that was us. The next slide, please. In 2000 and I think 15 was the next year, we built our first concrete skate park. This is in Zababde, which is a village close to Jenin in the north of the West Bank. So after the initial success of our summer camp and classes, we got the Sharik Forum to advertise on the radio that we were doing skateboard classes. It was a new sport, and we wanted to see how many people were like involved. And once we saw that it was something that people wanted to do, and we then thought, we can maybe expand this and like actually build a skate park, not just build a ramp, but do something a bit bigger. So we got someone to give us some land up in Zababde in the north, and we went to do classes beforehand, built a skate park, and that was our first effort that we did in 2015. Wasn't very good, but it's still there. But we were like learning, and basically my journey from the beginning till now has been learning from mistakes and like seeing how other people and other organizations are doing things, what not to do and what to do. What we didn't do here, I think, is we didn't like plan for all the classes afterwards and for what would happen afterwards. We had quite an awkward partner that we were working with. So after this project happened, I was a lot more clued up as to what I would need to do in order to have something work well. I thought you could just come in, you would build and do classes, and then it'd be fine, but it doesn't work like that. So we learned a lot from this first build, and thankfully we had a big team of volunteers, both international and local, who helped build the park. And then on the following year, we got invited to Asira Shamalia, which is next to Nablus in the middle of the West Bank. Can I have the next slide, please? Oh wait, well this is the wrong slide. Okay, so also, hi. Okay, so here, this is now in Asira. We got invited by a group called the Palestinian House of Friendship, Al-Bayt al-Sadaqa al-Falastini, and they invited us to come and build in Asira with the Baladiya, with the council there. But the one thing they said was they wanted the skateboarding to be only for boys and not for girls. And of course, for us, like doing stuff in Ramallah and over here, we kind of wanted to do both. And we knew that in most of the world, it is a male-dominated sport. Like most of skateboarding has been male. It's been a bit chauvinistic for a lot of it, and we kind of wanted to change that a bit and to start fresh, so there was no baggage there. But going like, here's a toy, it's for everyone. Let's see how we get on. So we managed to convince the council that we would do classes for girls as well. So we did classes in local school there, and then we have like girls sessions at the skate park, and then like just open days where anyone can come. And to our surprise, it was a lot more mixed than we thought it would be. We obviously didn't want to go into like a village and say you must like do things like this, because that's never going to work. But you have to find like a balance between like wanting to sort of being legit within the eyes of the community and like doing something good, but also wanting to be like, oh, this is a sport for everyone to enjoy. And so for a project like this to succeed, you have to be there for a few years beforehand, meet the council, meet the parents, meet the kids, and then stay there for like 5 years afterwards. So we're still doing classes here, and I still go back and meet the mayor and meet everyone and make sure things are going fine. And that's something that I learned from our first project in Zimbabwe. So here is our first class with Lily, our volunteer, her family's from Ramallah, but she was actually like living in the UK. So this is the first girl class that we had in Asira. Next slide, please. And so here is the first like big concrete park that we built. It's about 600 meters squared in Asira, just outside of the village, next to the secondary school. We had a team of 20 volunteers to build the park, and then we hired local builders for certain things like the helicopter flattening of the ground or like plastering and stuff. But it was a big success, and because we'd spent a lot of time in the community already and had been doing classes beforehand, as soon as it was complete, we had an opening day, and then we were doing classes with internationals like ever since. So as soon as someone like walks into Asira who's not from there, who's white or international, they're like, skate park, right? And everyone knows where you're going because there's not a lot happening there apart from that. So that was our first big build that we did in 2015. The next slide, please. Back a few, maybe. Back a few more. Back other way.
Which way?
The back way. Yeah, that way. Okay, that's fine. So this is the opening day. This is a nice shot. You can see the scenery from the skate park is amazing. But also you can see the skate park has become kind of a community hangout. So if you go down there on a Friday, you can smoke some shisha, you get some tea, have a picnic, you sing some songs. What's quite nice is it's become a space for everyone to hang out, not like a skate park in the UK, which has been more, it's sort of like, you know, your skate rats are in the skate park and no one else is really like welcome. So we tried to make it into a space where everyone can come. In coordination with the council, who built like sort of a theatre area just below and like a picnic area on the side. And we really wanted to kind of, if you want to introduce something new there, you have to introduce it in a way which is not going to produce the sort of classic skate culture over here, which is counter culture, because then that's not really going to take hold in the same way. So we wanted to like be like, here's something new. And at the beginning, I brought in some skate videos and some skate magazines, like Thrasher type stuff. But I quickly realized this is maybe not the right route to go down, because it's something new. It doesn't have to be then import all the UK and American ideas of what skateboarding is, but like let them like figure it out on their own. And of course, because they're all online, they can connect like with each other and like discover on their own. So I think because we tried to like avoid all of that and just be like, here's a toy for everyone to play with, I think it was more accepted than trying to be more like we're pushing an agenda of what this should be. The next slide, please. So as I spoke earlier about Israel attracting all the skateboarding and professional teams, we arranged for the first like pro team to visit Palestine, and only Palestine, to which the Israeli skater WhatsApp group, which is huge, was extremely like angry that they didn't visit Israel. But this is Casper, who is part of the Isle team and like Nike team. So we had like a Nike sponsored a trip out to Palestine, and they did like demos in the skate parks. The thing that I liked most was when they were in the skate park in Asira, the kids really didn't care. They were like, all right, fine, but it's my go now. And I was like, that's kind of what I like to see. Because over here, it would be like, oh, the pros are coming. Let's get my signature and meet the pros. But they just wanted to skate. And we're like, you're in my way. Can you get in my way? So everyone was all skating together. So it was quite a surprise, but quite a nice surprise in the way it worked. So here you can see Casper alling over a handrail in Nablus with some onlookers who probably have never seen a guy with such high socks alling over a handrail before. but there you go. Next slide, please. This, you can see in the distance there, actually, the Mediterranean, the separation wall is this up here. This is in a village called Jaius, next to Qalqilia, in the north of the West Bank, in the northwest. So here we, after the success of the other park, we partnered with a group called Skate Kilia, who works with kids in this area. And they had a bit of ground next to the school in Jaius, where there was already like a skate community that had been forming over the past year. And so we worked together to build another skate park there, which again and the quality was better now because we've got a more professional team, and we're working with the councils there. So it was quite exciting to see something new. But this build was like difficulties because the army was always coming into the site. As some of you might know, like Jaius or that area, like close to the wall, it's like very difficult like living there because army's always in, like arresting people like all the time. And I think when the council were quite keen on this happening and the play park happening as well, because there's really like nowhere else to be this like safe. So when the kids were in here and the army comes in, at least all the parents knew like where they were, and the local coordinator was like taking names so they knew who was there in the skate park. But I was really glad to be able to do one in a place like that, because it was quite a different situation from Asira. All our locations have like slightly different contexts, but this one, the effects of the occupation are very direct, and you can feel it every day. Next slide, please. So we then started doing classes in Ramallah again. Here we have Kamalik on the left, who is being a volunteer for us in the classes we have there. And we were very keen on the long run of what we're trying to do is not only establish skateboarding and working in places which like it needs the help. For example, like Jaius, it really could do with, a safer place for kids to play. But then also going, well, we need to, if we want this to be self-sustainable, we need to have something happening in the cultural hubs of Palestine. Because I could work for 50 years building small skate parks and villages. That would just give me a job. That wouldn't really solve, it wouldn't make a scene happen. So what we're trying to do now is to focus on Ramallah, where our local manager lives. And we've been trying to chat with the councils there, who are a little bit more difficult than the village ones, obviously, because it's a bigger town. And there's less land in Ramallah. It's obviously a premium. But we're trying to focus a lot more on the skaters and the skate scene in Ramallah, because when that happens and there's a skate park there, then we don't have to be there anymore. We can slowly take a step back and they can run things on their own. The next slide, please. So this is me with some skater friends in Ramallah. I've forgotten the slides in what order, but anyway, this is basically kind of encapsulates the way that I made friends in Palestine, was by taking up my skateboard and skating with everyone that I met, and that was my in, and also that's the in for our volunteers. We have about 60 international volunteers every year that come and do classes, and what's quite nice is we managed to avoid the classic charity aid giving model by going, oh, you need something, we'll give it to you and then we'll leave, and like we're giving and you receiving. And if, in that kind of model, you often find that the people who are receiving are going to feel patronized that you're giving them help and envious that they're not in a position to help others on their own. And so this is a lesson that I learned along the way at the beginning, being like, oh, I built like a skate park, we're doing things, but why isn't it working? Why aren't people like wanting to do it? And like, bit by bit, I come to like realize how it is, and lots of NGOs that are working in Palestine kind of miss the point a bit, and you don't quite get that connection with the local community. But the beauty about skateboarding is when the volunteers come, all they're doing is saying, "Can we play with your kids? Can we skate with your kids and have fun?" And the volunteers, they learn Arabic from the people that skate. They've learned how to cook. Like we produced a cookbook with all the local skaters and their parents in Palestine. And it really doesn't feel like we're coming to help, but it's more like we're here to have like fun with you. And a lot of the volunteers, they stay in touch with the skaters in Palestine, and then they go abroad, and it becomes more of like a network of skateboarding, which I think is why we've been able to like manage through the COVID time and up till now, and stay and be sort of like legitimate in the small villages when you have a large group of like international volunteers, which could be a bit imposing. We've managed to sort of do it in a way so that it's not so much we're giving you help, but like let's have fun all together. Is that the last slide?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, just to give you a view now of where we're at and what we're hoping to do and like why we're doing this, we've seen the benefits from skateboarding from everywhere in terms of relieving stress, bringing people together, having like focusing on something positive, especially in places where there's nothing else to do. But what's crucial for us is that my aim is to not exist anymore. I don't want to be doing Skate Pal in 5-10 years time. I want me to be done and things to be working on their own now. So our local manager, Aram, who's from Jenin but living in Ramallah, he's going to start his own skateboard shop, and we're training him on how to build with concrete and how to use concrete in the UK, and then to do one skate park in Ramallah next year. So bit by bit, we're trying to train the kind of key people there, and like not in what I would do as an NGO, but what they would want to do as like an enterprise, as like a business, involving skateboarding, so that it can become a job, and therefore be successful. Because once you've got like a skate shop, that's when you can start like making money for local skateboarders, and you can have a scene happening. But if I was just there building parks every year, having in volunteers, yeah, I'd have a job. We'd have fun, but you wouldn't really see things taking hold because they would always be relying on someone else. So we're really trying to get away from that, and aim in like the next like 2 to 3 years. It should have been now, but because of COVID, it got pushed back. But in 3 years' time, we don't want to have any more international like volunteers through SkatePal. But Aram is going to be running things on his own business, and we're just like there to say there's skateboarding happening in Palestine. It's not only in Israel, but there's skateboarding happening there, and that's kind of that's our dream at the moment. So what we're doing as an organisation is we're based in London, and we're raising money to try to make that happen, and to build a skate park in Ramallah, and to give Aram the tools to be able to have a skateboard shop, to then attract the people to come and visit on their own, and to make money on his own. And when that happens, then that's me done. I'm out of a job. But when I'm out of a job, I'll be happy, because that means it'll be a success. So thanks. So now we have a quick Q&A before the next one, if there's any questions from anyone.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
I've got a friend who's desperate. My best friend in school spent a lot of time trying to get Polish people to play cricket.
Oh yeah?
He could learn a lot from you. He got nowhere.
Okay.
But I guess the success would be if there's a huge community that's actually just running with it the way it's happening in Israel. Is it taking off like beyond just being a few individuals with shops and is it like, do you see like a massive online thing or?
It's growing, but like say, for example, in Glasgow or Edinburgh, the skateboard scene took like 2 decades to really establish itself. It takes a long time to fully establish itself, and like to have a skate shop, it took like 10 years for like a skate shop to be a viable option. So we're trying to expedite that process, and they are being connected. So there's like skate communities in Asira, in like here, Jayus, Ramallah, Bethlehem. So there are like different areas in which we work, but because it's quite a young scene, the kids don't travel on their own that much, for obvious reasons, and the parents don't want them to be like traveling across the country, so they mainly connect on an Instagram. That's happening a bit like more and more, and Aram is trying to spearhead that to make that happen and to kind of create a scene. But you're right in that it's the hard thing is it's still the like nascent like emergings of skateboarding, and people don't really know. There's not enough older people to emulate for it to be left on its own yet. You need to have people who are really good to emulate and to like, oh, I want to be like that. Which that's what I had growing up, and that's what doesn't happen at the moment. And that's why for Aram it's quite difficult, because he's one of the only ones now who's left there. And some of the older skaters, when they get to 18, 19, they want to leave because they want to like work abroad and like study abroad, or just get out of Palestine. And so I'm really glad that Aram's wanting to head back and like do that. But it's like doing cricket in Poland. I imagine it's a long slog, but yeah, it's like happening bit by bit. Yeah.
Like the skate park, the photos of the skate parks, like they're clearly really good skate parks. Like there's plenty of kind of naff skate parks in like towns and cities in the UK, but they like look like proper pro skate parks. Like how much does it cost to build a skate park like that, and like how long does it take to build?
So the skate park like in Asira or in Jayus is about 700 meters squared. We spend about $30,000 on materials, and the labour's free, so it's not very expensive. In here for that size, you're talking about like $500,000 probably in the UK because of the labour fees. So when you don't have to pay people to like do the work, it's really cheap to do like a skate park. So the expense of it is not the problem, and we have like professional designers who will go over our plans and like make sure everything's like done exactly right. And like most of our team that would build are professional skate park builders, but they just do it pro bono because they like the project. But it is quite cheap, and the aim is in the future though that when Aram and the others are properly trained up, that then they'll get contracts from the council to build parks. So they won't be doing it for free, but they'll be like having an income from doing that, with a few like volunteers assisting from outside.
Yeah. And how long does it take to build?
About a month to 6 weeks to build a park. Every year, every time we do it, it gets a little bit faster. So in theory, that should just take about 3 weeks to build that. But we usually give like a 3-month period for all the sort of like things that happen.
Yeah.
All the faff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of what Skatepark does. I've actually been to the skate park in Assyria.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and I met some of your internationals like Will and Ruby. Who
Oh,
now
nice one.
gone
Yeah,
on
yeah,
to
yeah.
do like other stuff. So what you say about Skatepark, sort of, I sort of understand what you mean about you almost don't want it to exist because it will be a success, but it almost feels like it would be a shame because the work you do is so great and all of those people going out there and making all those connections. Is it not more of a case of kind of evolving what the charity does rather than just stopping?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially, I mean, like stopping in terms of like our actual operations in Palestine. Because
Okay.
we also do classes with like migrants down in London and other stuff that's not like that advertised because we
Yeah.
can't really advertise it. So we'll once things are like set up, we're not going to like turn our back on Palestine. We're obviously always going to be encouraging people to go there. And you're right, like we have like built up somewhat of a brand and following who are supportive of what happens, and you want to be able to like reach them.
Yeah.
Like one of the nice things I suppose about us not being there is like we have to be apolitical so we can enter through like the airport in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
We have had a few people who got denied because they were connected like with us. But if it's all locally run, they can say and do what they want, and they can be political if they want to. We can't do that. But you're right in that it would be a waste to like throw it all away. But it's mainly stopping like official programs so that like, people are raising money for us. It's more like going like if you want to go and like go there, go and speak to Aram and the local enterprise that's happening, and we'll take the rest of the supporters like on the other projects that we have. I mean, our future's like what we'll do is a bit unsure yet, but we have a few ideas. But mainly, the main thing that we're like sure of is we don't want to be as involved at the moment. But I'll always be going back there because I've got a lot of friends there and stuff. So yeah.
And to be greedy, just a really quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
I did, before you said that stuff about not wanting to exist, my original question was a little bit about, because I remember when I met some of your international volunteers, they did say that they sort of had been encouraged to be honest about when they travelled, what they were going to do, and most people that travel to Palestine are encouraged to not be honest because they feel like they won't get in. How much of a problem was it about volunteers not getting in, and also like building materials and stuff? Did you have to try and get any of that through from Israel, or was that all just from the West Bank that you were able to get that?
So on the first point, I think we had one, maybe two out of about 350 people that got denied.
Okay.
I mean, once I almost didn't get in. I was interrogated for like 15 hours, but eventually I got in. So every time I have got in, and all the volunteers have got in, and have been honest. And I think because we strive to be apolitical and like our like online presence is just skateboarding only, that means that we've like avoided the sort of like downfalls of other organisations which could get a bit political. Which obviously, you know, we want them to be there, but we want to get in. Like that's our main goal. And so it hasn't really been so much of an issue for us. That in terms of like materials, that's all been like bought in Palestine, and we bring in like a few specialty tools that don't exist, but everything else is bought there. Yeah.
I also know someone I think involved in Skate House. Pete, I think he did some filming for
Oh
it.
yeah.
But I was really interested in hearing about your work in the school with the girls, and I'm quite interested in running and cycling in Palestine and how there's been a bit of a pushback with that. And so you talked about it a little bit, but I was wondering, have you experienced a wider pushback in other areas of Palestine in relation to girls wanting to get involved in skateboarding?
I haven't experienced it directly. I'm sure it's there. I'm sure there's a lot of like parents, for example, in Assyria who wouldn't want their daughters to go skating in like a mixed crowd. My Arabic's not like fluent enough to hear it, and also I'm not in those situations where I would hear the people that would complain, and the people that like the project aren't going to tell me about the people who are complaining about the project. But I have heard from like a few people in the village that, you know, there are some people that maybe don't like the idea that it's mixed, and I mean we kind of expected that would be the case. But on the whole, I think the council and the people that I was speaking to there were, I think, pleasantly surprised at how well it was accepted, because they thought no one would mix. But when we got to well, like not that many, but when we were there, and because our volunteers are like half men, half women, we like made an effort to have like half and half, so that it wouldn't seem like it's all men or it's all women. It's obviously harder to get female skate volunteers because there's way more guys that skate at the moment. But that's slowly.
Even in the UK.
Well, like more in the UK. The places where it's most equal are like Afghanistan and Palestine, due to the NGOs that are working there. But yeah, I think that's going to change slowly. There is a bit of pushback, but I think like we with our volunteers, there's a long information pack, and we stress things like this is what to do, and what not to do, and like wanted to try to encourage girls to skate, but like you have to do it in a way which the other people in the village are going to be like want to see you do it. So I have to like interview each one individually to be like, that's great, but what's the way? How are you going to get there? Type of thing. And like you can't just go in and be like, I'm doing this. We had like a few people go in with a kind of like white Western savior idea of like, I'll fix everything, and you've made things worse. So I think the bit by bit it's becoming less, mainly because like the people that skate are half like girls and half boys, and when they start at the same level, they improve at the same rate. Like there's no difference between the level or like ability. I think here we think boys are better because there's way more boys that skate, but when you start from the scratch, it's just the same, obviously. Yeah.
Thanks, that was very interesting.
Nice one. Okay, thanks. Well, thanks for coming and listening to me.
Thanks, John. That was brilliant.
Cheers.
Really good, really interesting.
Thank you.
And I think we're going to have a quick turnaround. We're just loading up the film. I think so. 4 minutes.
Toilet break?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was conscious that you wanted to get to go. So that's yeah.
Okay.
In 5 minutes. As soon as you got to the toilet.
Oh, yeah, I'll get everyone to say.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
I'll let you go.
she like so on the stage? She was oh, we're just waiting for a couple of the
Oh, they still have. Oh, okay. That's fine. And as Lauren said about pictures, we can't.
yeah, no, that's really fine.
It's got a video.
Yeah, so Sarah actually, so we started filming 4 years ago, yesterday. We did actually start filming here and in house. And then we had a big fundraiser. And Sarah was and then a couple of weeks ago, as a celebration of my PhD, my husband was doing, he bought me tickets. But he bought us tickets to see.
Yeah, I think they saw what happened before, and also we said
So it's just so many
all we have to do was give some space and flatten out.
like I said to you on that Zoom call, like, I've been talking about people in so
But yeah, I was going to make this video. I was
I wanted to, so I don't really
it was impossible to get it. I mean, like, that's true anywhere in Bethlehem. The village council is pretty chill. So you speak Arabic as well.
a lot of my friends work in the music industry, and I've been saying I want to do something similar to and then as you brush around the music
Like mostly everyone here. Mostly everyone here, I know.
Is everyone there? No, it's really.
Hi everyone. Do you want to start or should I start?
No, you start.
Yeah, okay. Hi everyone. My name is Diala Said. I'm from Bethlehem. I grew up there my whole life, and then I moved to Ramallah. I studied there and worked there as well. And now I'm in the UK because I did my master's in Nottingham, and I started working also in Nottingham. So probably I'm gonna stay in the UK for a while. I'm gonna be talking to you today, me and Kirsty, about Right to Movement, which is a campaign that me and my colleague in Palestine, we started in end of 2012. The idea behind it is basically in Palestine, we lack freedom of movement. We are restricted in all kinds of ways. We cannot move anywhere outside in Palestine, in the West Bank or across historic Palestine. So the idea is that we used running as a tool to highlight the restrictions of movement imposed by the Israeli occupation on us. We started in 2012 in Bethlehem, and the idea was to do a marathon that is in high standards, that international people could come to Bethlehem and say that, yeah, we're going to Bethlehem to run a marathon, we want to do a full marathon in Palestine. When we started looking for this distance, which is the marathon distance, 42 kilometers, we were not able to find that distance, that road, which is like a continuous track that people can go to Palestine, international runners or Palestinians even, to do a full marathon in Palestine without being stopped or without having to do the same road a couple of times. The longest road and distance that we could find was 10.5 kilometers in Bethlehem, where you can run on roads in Area A, because Palestine, the West Bank, is divided in areas A and B and C. Area A is under the Palestinian control. Area B and C are complicated and mostly under the Israeli control. so we were able to find 10.5 kilometers, area A, in the West Bank, where we are able to be able to close that road under the Palestinian police to be able to do a race in Bethlehem. And the race starts in the Nativity Church and goes towards Jerusalem and then faces the apartheid wall, and then runners have to run next to the wall and then go through 2 refugee camps in Bethlehem and run towards Al-Khadr village and then come back all the way to the Nativity Church. This is a half marathon, and if runners want to do a full marathon, they have to run the same loop again. So basically running the same road 4 times in order to finish a full marathon. And this is the story that tells the whole world how we in Palestine are limited in our land, and we are segregated, and we just can't move, and we cannot practice our basic human right of movement. Together with the marathon, we also wanted to build a community of runners, because 10 years ago you wouldn't find like a female or even like a male just like running for a hobby or just to do a sport, for like running as a sport. People used to just like go to the gym and just like lift weights and do like silly stuff. But we were like, yeah, we want to be able to run streets, to reclaim our streets, and to also encourage women to be able to run and do that sports without fear. When I started, I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. It was so scary. But bit by bit, just seeing other people, other women running with me and with us, it encouraged many people to join us, and we were able to build a community of more than 9 running groups all over Palestine. We started in Bethlehem, and now we have communities in Bethlehem, Ramallah, Jericho, Hebron, Haifa, Jerusalem, Gaza, and Nazareth, and Jaffa. So yeah, it's quite hard to when I think about all of them. But yeah, we have 9 groups all over Palestine, running for the basic human right of freedom of movement, telling everyone that this is our streets, and we will keep running, and we will keep fighting for our land. When we started at the start, it was quite hard to encourage females to come and join us, but consistency and just being present all the time and not flaking on any of the runs just encouraged more people to keep going and keep coming, and the how do I say it, like the spirit and the feelings that were like shared, like we're all doing this for the cause and we're all doing this for Palestine, kept people going. When we organized the first Palestine Marathon in 2013, and even the second and the third, was people in the streets were like, what are these people are running for? Is there something happening? Like, they just didn't get that we're running just to do sports and running to be healthy. But bit by bit, people were accepting us more and understanding that, yeah, these are the marathon runners. These are people that are running for our freedom and for our rights. Together with everything that we were trying to also, what we did is having different communities all across Palestine, connected all the Palestinians youth and also young and also old people together. I could say that 10 years ago, I did not have any friend from Haifa or from Jaffa, like the Palestinian towns inside Israel. I knew none. But after we started this movement and after we started the marathon, now I have some of my really close friends living in Haifa and Jaffa, and this is only my story you're hearing, but if you're hearing other stories as well, we formed friendships, and more than that, love as well. Yeah, so So our movement connected many people together, many Palestinians together. And at the same time, we were able to travel around the world and run marathons around the world and be able to tell our story to internationals. So our slogan is we run to tell a different story, because running is our tool, and running is a tool that unites people, and it's a language that everyone speaks. Just as, I forgot your name, sorry.
Charlie.
Just as Charlie said, skating connected people, and wherever you go, if you have like your skateboard, you can just skate and then you can connect with people and talk. Same as running. We ran around the world probably more than 20 marathons and half marathons. We took, every time we traveled to do a marathon around the world, we took different Palestinians to represent Palestine and represent the movement and to speak their stories and to tell how, to talk about their life in Palestine. And we just connect so easily because it's a language between everyone. What else should I talk about?
5 men, 5 women.
Yeah, no.
Every group.
Yeah, more than that.
Mary can't move.
Yeah.
No, but like every time you go away, you have 5 men, 5 women.
Yeah,
'cause
we
you're
always,
equal.
yeah, true. When we travel around the world, we always try to have equal female and male representations, because we call for gender equality and we want the female to be the leaders of Palestine. And also in our groups, the 9 groups that I mentioned, we have one female leader and one male leader that always try to do leading the group. We do have running every week, like one running session every week, social run. And we also do indoor workouts and exercises. We do stretches and different kind of workouts that we try to keep going. And yeah. Other than that, we in 2016, as I said, we always try to deliver messages and different kind of messages to the world. In 2016, we did this run from Nazareth to Bethlehem. The idea behind it is we wanted to do the story of Mary and Joseph walking from Bethlehem, from Nazareth to Bethlehem to give birth to baby Jesus. And we did that by running. So basically we ran from Nazareth to Bethlehem, more than 200 kilometers. And the idea is that we were customs. We were 11 Marys and 11 Josephs. And we were doing it in a relay race. And instead of the donkey, we had the bus. and every kilometer, 1 Mary and 1 Joseph, they go down and they run 1 kilometer and then they go back in the bus. 1 Mary and 1 Joseph, and they go all the way back to Bethlehem. It was a long 12 hours and a half, but it was nice. We had a lot of encouragements on the way, but at the same time we have a lot of Israeli soldiers stopping us and saying, "What are you doing?" Because we had to cross multiple checkpoints, and many people were not able to get a permit to enter Nazareth at the first place. So they were waiting for us at the first checkpoint after Nazareth in the north, in the Jalame checkpoint. And of course we were denied access to Jerusalem after that. So we ran across the wrong road all the way. The Palestinians here will know it's Wad al-Nar, all the way to Bethlehem. Yeah, it was quite hard, but we were able to do it. And these are the messages that we try to deliver to the world, that we live under really brutal occupation and in an apartheid state, that we just don't have any basic human rights. And we're trying to tell the world that, by telling stories through sports and through skating and through theater as well. These are our tools that we try to use. These are simple tools, and in my opinion, I think they're effective.
2 more
yeah.
things I think you should say.
Well,
Chicago Marathon and the run from Google.
yeah,
Apple.
yeah, I can talk about that. Also, in 2014, we did a campaign to run from Google to Apple, to deliver messages that Palestine should be on Google Maps. And when we did that, the response from Google was that Palestine is not how do you say it? Like, officially identified by like international community, and of course our response was that Israeli settlements that are just next to all the Palestinian villages and inside the West Bank, they are international. They are illegal under international law, and they are all in Israel in the Google Maps and the Apple Maps, and you can see like a swimming pool in Israeli settlements, but you can't see any houses in Palestinian villages. And of course they didn't have any response to that. But 1 year after, Google Maps cars were hovering around in the West Bank taking taking pictures, and yeah, now we can see like many places in the West Bank on Google Maps, but not the villages, but just like some of the big cities. You can see them on Google Maps. But yeah, we did this like a success story that we did in 2014. Another thing that we also try to do is connecting the Palestinians to the villages and the places that we don't go to regularly, like so we do like hikes and different kind of activities like walks and like also like cultural food exchange and stuff in different kind of villages in the West Bank. We took more than 400 person for a hike one time, and it was quite too much, but but yeah, we do many hikes, probably like 3 or 4 a year, for every year, just to explore different places inside the West Bank.
And your parents go to every single one?
Yeah, my parents go to every single one. Even when I'm not there, they just like go there and enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, well.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I have a couple of things to say, but I will never be able to do as well as Diala. I have something printed out just to keep me right, but yeah, I can never do as well as Diala. But my name's Kirsty, and I'm one of the filmmakers behind Freedom to Run. Stephen's one of the other ones, just there. And then Woody at the back in the corner is one of the other filmmakers. So Freedom to Run is a running and cultural exchange between runners in Palestine and runners in Scotland. And it centres on the Palestine and Edinburgh marathons. And our aim with the film and the exchange has been to raise awareness about the restrictions on freedom of movement that people in Palestine face. So the work that Diala does with Right to Movement. And there were 2 influences behind starting the project. So the first one was my PhD. So my PhD, which I graduated from on Monday, by the way. So just wanted to throw that in there. So my PhD research, so I did my PhD in sociology, and my research looked at audience understanding and news coverage of the Israel-Palestine conflict. And one of the things I looked at was the restrictions on freedom of movement and what people understood about that. And exploring that issue demonstrated to me how little people know about it. And yeah, so in my fieldwork, I realized that people don't know about the restrictions on freedom of movement, but how would they understand it? Because they haven't had to experience it. And I don't want to patronize people, but in case people here do know about the restrictions, but one of the big things from my PhD was to not assume levels of knowledge that don't exist in people. Which is a big thing that the news do. So if there's some people that don't know about the restrictions, like Diala said, they affect everything. From healthcare, education, what else do they, like everything, love.
Yeah.
And so when I started exploring this issue, I was like, well, how, like, people don't know, like, people don't understand the reality of it, but how can I explain the reality to people that haven't experienced it? And then the second influence was based on my time that I spent in Palestine in 2012. And for people that have been to Palestine before, I'm sure it had the same effect that it had on me. It had such a profound effect. And I came back and I just told everyone and anyone about my experiences, to the point that everyone's eyes would just glaze over and they would want me to stop talking about Palestine. But I was like, how can I get people to engage with this issue? And I realized that for many people, they can't engage with Palestine because they don't know the reality of what life is like in Palestine. And so they have to see it for themselves. And once people see the reality of life in Palestine, it has the potential to dramatically affect people's perceptions and understandings of the situation there. But I also knew I would probably have very minimal success trying to persuade people to take the next holiday in Palestine. And then I heard about the Palestine Marathon. And as I'm sure you're aware from Diala's talk before me, it's a great way to engage new audiences. So I came up with the idea to start a running and cultural exchange between runners here and runners in Palestine. And then I also thought, this could also be a good film. So we had 10 runners from Scotland and then 10 runners from Palestine and Right to Movement. And we started filming actually 4 years ago yesterday. So we met for the first time on Skype 4 years ago yesterday. So the first day of filming, we had a film crew in Palestine and a film crew in Scotland. And the first day of filming, the runners met over Skype for the first time. This was before the pandemic and Zoom. So Skype was a big thing at the time when we started filming. And then we travelled over to the Palestine Marathon in March 2018. And whilst we were there, the Scottish runners experienced what you would imagine, what the stereotypes from the news. So they experienced the long waits at checkpoints. They saw Bedouin villages and learnt about their homes getting demolished. We went to Hebron, but they also saw a part of life in Palestine that you don't see in the media. So we went to a hip hop show, we drank Palestinian beer, we ate loads of falafel, and also we of course ran the Palestine Marathon. And then a few months later, Right to Movement came over to Scotland and we ran the Edinburgh Marathon together. And whilst they were here, they saw the best of what Scotland's got to offer. So we went to the City Chambers, we went to the Scottish Parliament. Some of them even tried deep-fried Mars bars. But I discovered today that Diala actually likes baked beans and not deep-fried Mars bars.
No.
And the aim with the cultural exchange was to show how our lives are similar. Well, to show how our lives are different, but also the similarities that we share. And to break down those stereotypes that exist surrounding people in Palestine. And like Diala said, Right to Movement's slogan is that they run to tell a different story. And that's what I hope we get across in our film. So the film follows the critical journeys of the Scottish runners in Palestine. And some of the Scottish runners before we went were, they weren't very engaged with Palestine, but also bought into that stereotype that Palestinians are terrorists and that the restrictions exist because of security. And as our time in Palestine went on, the film shows their critical journeys as they experience the reality of life in Palestine. But it doesn't just show that. It shows the friendships that formed between the two groups. Like Diala is now one of my best friends. So it shows the friendships that formed. And the film is almost finished. We've had a slight delay because of COVID, but we're almost there. And we're just going to show one scene from the film tonight, and it's from the Palestine Marathon. Which I think kind of encapsulates everything that we've wanted to get across in the film. It shows the friendship, shows the marathon, it shows the restrictions, and looking forward to hearing your views and answering your questions after. So, did I say anything else?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Basically, I've just been feeling really ill for about maybe the past 2 days. I haven't been able to sleep. I was up every hour last night with chills, fever, and yeah, been pretty shit. Today I've managed to eat about 3 peanuts and a yogurt, so not too good. And the marathon's tomorrow. That's pretty shit.
Hi, Ped.
Yous all look toasty.
Feel it too.
How are you feeling?
Shit.
Are you going to do the full or the half?
Full.
It's going to be hot. It's going to be hilly. I don't think I would run it.
Nah, I think I'm doing marathon.
So George said that he knows the times of those who have won in previous years.
Yeah,
and that's more than you take for a marathon.
You don't know who's coming this year.
Yeah.
And
Bethlehem is, you know, they did the Barcelona marathon last week and they're trying the Liga next week, and I mean, are there a lot of people who have no idea?
No idea where Bethlehem is.
Yeah, or you know, well, that there is an issue.
I would say
Yeah.
a big, well, there's only 10 runners from Scotland, but a big chunk of the runners were pretty clueless apart from the stereotypes. So Israel's good, Palestine's bad, but didn't really understand the reality of the situation. And
Yeah.
one of them actually, Ped, who you'll see, who's kind of become the star of the film, but you only see him in a bit of in the scene there. But he actually thought that Bethlehem was just a made-up place that appears in hymns at Christmas.
Right, yeah.
And then when he realised that the Palestine Marathon was in Bethlehem, he's going to be so embarrassed if he sees the stream. But he was, when he realised that the marathon took place in Bethlehem, he was like, well, Bethlehem's actually a real place. So maybe that answers your question. I'm not sure.
But the thing is, people internationals that come to Palestine, they mostly know what's happening, or so we've got two types of internationals coming to Palestine. It's either internationals coming to see Palestine because they know the situation, or internationals going to Israel, and then Israeli agency, they tell them, okay, now we're gonna get into a bus and we're gonna go visit the Nativity Church in Bethlehem, and they just go to the Nativity and they know nothing, and they just go back and they just don't understand that they just crossed the borders, that they went to Bethlehem and they crossed back and they went to Jerusalem, and
They think it is an Israeli city.
yeah, they think it's one of the Israeli cities,
Or,
especially Bethlehem.
or from my experience in 2012, I stayed in Ida refugee camp, which has got a lot of Banksies in the camp. Oh, are you from Ida?
Yes.
Do you know Musa Al-Azhar?
So he's in. We're not showing the scene tonight, but he's in one of our scenes.
Yeah.
And Mo, who lives here now.
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll know more than me, but being in the Laji Centre and being on the balcony and then seeing American tourists calling out to us, "Oh, excuse me, can you show us where the Banksies are?" And you're like, "What? Like, is that literally like why? Like the only reason you've come here?" And they're just there with big cameras, and that's all they want to do is see the Banksies.
I guess that's why the Bethlehem Marathon partnered with Arwad as well to make the cultural scene of the marathon, and have organized different groups performing dance or singing and so on all over the road in Haida Camp and the whole road of Bethlehem.
Well, I remember the year that we did the marathon. I didn't see this, but I heard from one of my friends. It wasn't part of the project, but ran the marathon.
Yeah.
And he said that when it got to Ida Camp, Dabka, where like they stopped the marathon, like the kids from the camp were dancing. Yeah.
So it was important to show this cultural aspect of Bethlehem, and freedom of movement blocked every few meters somehow. The north is blocked, the south is blocked. This illegal war of expansion and annexation on the north and east of Ida Camp, but also cuts off. And you mentioned area A, B, C, but Bethlehem is 87% area C.
Yeah.
So it's under full Israeli control, and this is where the limited spaces where people cannot just go beyond these 10 continuous kilometers, including Area C, part of it.
Yeah.
In Area C with this wall and so on.
Which is why like what Right to Move are doing the Palestine Marathon is so amazing, because like as I was saying earlier, when you speak to people, well, my experience of trying to speak to people about Palestine and like eyes gloss over, but I'm a runner and I speak to people that would consider themselves as apolitical, and when you say to them, okay, well you say that you're apolitical, but you run marathons. Can you imagine training for a marathon and not having the freedom to train, but then also running a marathon? And then that's when people that say that they're apolitical, they're like, oh, what? Is that what happens in Palestine with a marathon? And so it's like, it's a great way to engage people that wouldn't normally engage.
Yeah.
We can try the film again.
Okay.
Hi, Ped.
Basically, I've just been feeling really ill for about maybe the past 2 days. I haven't been able to sleep. I was up every hour last night with chills, fever, and yeah, been pretty shit. Today I've managed to eat about 3 peanuts and a yogurt, so not too good. And the marathon's tomorrow, so that's pretty shit.
Hi, Ped.
Yous all look toasty.
Feel it too.
How are you feeling?
Shit.
Are you going to do the full or the half?
Full.
It's going to be hot. It's going to be hilly. I don't think I would run it.
Nah, I think I'll do the marathon.
So George said that he knows the times of those who have won in previous years.
Yeah,
and that's more than you take for a marathon.
You don't know who's coming this year.
Yeah. And if you've not run in a marathon with these sorts of conditions before, how that might affect you.
Just the heat, really.
But there's a chance that you could be on the podium. How wonderful that would be.
Just gonna close this. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
Two right movement runners will win the race tomorrow. I only have one concern, if Jess beats that. That's it.
I didn't think that the night before my first half marathon I'd be feeling so underprepared. But I also can't believe that the marathon is finally tomorrow. Everything's kind of been building up to this day, and then everyone's dropping like flies. One person's flown home early. One person's been sick. One person's got dysentery.
Can't wait for the marathon tomorrow.
You don't have a date now, right?
Maybe.
I think it's going to be a bit confusing, and I'm a bit worried about the route, and I'm a bit worried I'll end up doing the full marathon without realising.
Have you run a marathon before?
No.
What's the furthest you've ever run?
I've done a half marathon. Well, I've done more than a half marathon in chain. Yes.
I spent about 3 days rolling about in my own filth, suffering from fever dreams, chills, sweats. It's good that the athletic challenge in my life has been preceded by the worst 3 fucking days of my life. So just adds to the challenge, you know.
I don't think you should do it, but he's worked so hard for it. He's probably been the most excited out of everyone. He's been like a little puppy.
So our aim in Right to Movement, if we have freedom, is one day that we do a full marathon that starts from Bethlehem, the Nativity Church, and ends in Jerusalem in Al-Aqsa Mosque. Because that's what Right to Movement is all about. It's about crossing borders, it's about running in all levels. All religions are united together. We want our freedom, we want the apartheid wall down, and we're saying no to any kind of occupation. We want to be able to run in all of Palestine without any restrictions.
25 kilometers in now.
maybe a little more. But this is why I'm doing it.
A normal marathon route is 42 kilometres, but a normal route is not possible in Palestine. The fact that you can't run 10 kilometres in any direction without encountering a checkpoint, roadblock or other obstruction means there is no 42 kilometre route to run, so we run the same route 4 times. Nearly half of the participants in the marathon are women. Runners come from over 70 countries, and the event is inclusive, diverse, and is unlike any other. The race passes through refugee camps, along the separation wall, and through Bethlehem. It's both a gesture of defiance and a celebration of the freedom to run, and it brings together communities from throughout all of Palestine.
It's really hot, and we're halfway. Woo, there's no water. We don't know where Caitlin and Ped are. We saw an ambulance go by. We hope it's not from either of them. Give it for Woody.
Stop it. No, I'm joking, I'm not. But the problem is about 5 kilometres ago, I just cramped up so badly that I had to stop. I've been getting a shooting pain here, walked for a bit and just carried on, and it seems to be alright, so I'm going to carry on. It's me like my second time out. Does anyone, do you actually know what the best thing to do with cramp is?
I wanted to feel a bit more elated, but my pain is killing me too much. But, ow! Yeah, I think it's even hot.
You okay? Yeah? You need any help?
I'm crying.
Okay, you need water. Oh.
I went for my first time on a motorbike to pick up Woody. I ran another 4 kilometers with him until we finished. It was good actually. And I went to a store and I got him a banana. And I paid 1 shekel for the banana.
I would have walked the last 4 kilometres if the island hadn't come and got me, so it was really nice. It made all the difference.
So we're just waiting. We've been finished for almost like just under an hour now. We still haven't seen Ped. Starting to get really worried. He doesn't have a phone on him, so we can't phone him.
I think he's failed.
Yeah.
Because I have seen other people pass me. Because there was an ambulance quite early on.
Morning, Steve. How are you? Good. I hit my target time. Not my target distance though, but you know, pros and cons. Had multiple aid stations look at me worryingly. Ran the first downhill, came to the bottom of the first hill, started up and just threw up. And that's when all the kids started overtaking me.
Second place goes to Jessica Anderson. Jessica Anderson.
أنا العداء بشرى سلمان. We are from Gaza. إحنا كنا حابين نشارك طبعا بالسباق، بس الاحتلال الإسرائيلي ما سمح لنا، وإحنا كنا كتير متحمسين لنيجي على السباق، وإحنا كنا متدربين كتير كويس يعني، وما صار نصيب.
There was a big group of runners from Gaza that entered the race, like 50 I think they said, and they must have left really early, but they got stopped at a checkpoint for so long that they missed the race. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, the whole group of them, yeah. It was like heartbreaking. The girl got up, they let her speak on stage and stuff, and she was in tears. So, yeah, it was horrible.
We'll get enough going.
The checkpoint we just went through, we were allowed to stay on the bus and show our ID, but any Palestinians who were under the age of like 60, I think he said, had to get off and like kind of queue up at this little barrier to show his permit. George was saying there's no actual reason for them to do that, it's just to humiliate them. And George said he wanted to refuse getting off the bus. He said, I don't want to get off the bus, I'm cold. And the guy said, oh, we'll call the police. So, and obviously George didn't want to cause trouble, like, and hold us all up. So he had to just get off the bus. It's racism, basically. We don't have to get off the bus, he has to get off the bus.
You know, if they really wanted to check everyone's ID, they could just go on. It's just another way to segregate and humiliate them, basically, and make them jump through hoops. Yeah. Quite upset. Just like a cumulative thing of like all the different things that happened, and it was quite a small thing comparatively, but yeah.
Yeah, questions we can finish answering, I think.
Yeah. So, basically, the percentage of women coming to the group, I think it's group kind of like in an organic way, and also men at the same time. It was like kind of like a new sport that people were like, oh, we're just gonna explore, and that's exactly the same thing that happened with me. I wasn't a runner before. But then I just asked my dad to buy me like running shoes when he was in town, and he bought me like the cheapest one because he thought I'm not gonna go back, and just like he thought that's just like one-time thing for me. but yeah, I went the first time I went for a run. It was with some of the people that are involved in the campaign in an area called Al Makhrur area in Beit Jala. It's an area C in Bethlehem, in Beit Jala, near Bethlehem, and it's surrounded by Israeli settlements. And it was my first time going there, and I really enjoyed just like running in the country. It's like a countryside, and after that I started running by myself, so I can like get better. And then just to go there and like trying to show off that I can run better. but it's. And then I was encouraged to run more because it was just like a nice vibe, like around like really positive people, and that's how everyone else joined. Just because they get like a nice vibe. People are sharing the same values, but caring about Palestine, caring about our homeland, and just wanting to do something positive and saying positive stories about Palestine to each other, like, and to connect with other Palestinians. And also to internationals and to the international world, just trying to tell our story and how we live, just like the reality, from like a local person, yeah. And we were able to grow much. Like we have many participants in each of the groups. Sometimes more than 50 people come to just like a Sunday evening run, like just like a normal run. And we met a couple of your friends, like just like skating around Sirriya. Oh, yeah. And we're like, let's just move around. We're training for our run. Just stop skating. Yeah.
Nice.
Any other questions?
Is there any skaters that also run? I feel like there must have been a little bit of a crossover.
Yeah, there was one of the internationals that was was like so much into skating. I just can't remember his name now. But he was also running with us all the time. He was in Ramallah, but I can't remember his name. I met so many people and just keep losing names. Sometimes I even forget Kirsty's name. Thanks. I'm joking. Yeah.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank
Kirsty
you.
and Deanne.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Really, really interesting. And Charlie. Thank you.
Well,
So much crossover.
And
hopefully next year the film will be finished.
next
and then we
year,
can-
when?
Yeah.
No, you have like only a few days to finish it in 2021. Sorry.
I've been saying that for a while. Yeah, we'll be finished soon, Diala.
But when next year? Is it like?
Well, I just mean for the festival next year we can
No,
show
it's a
it.
question because maybe next year might be like December 2022. Like,
No, but by
still
then,
next
okay,
year.
we'll have the premiere, and then by this time next year we'll have done the premiere, and then
Good.
we can come
We'll
again.
definitely show it here next, so you have to have it done.
Let's get it in the diary then. I have to finish it by
Deadline.
next year.
Good.
Brilliant.
Thank
Okay,
you, everyone.
And
Stephen.
we're now going to show the premiere of Mafar. It's a rock band in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
وطني جميلك فاسمعيني لا تتركيني لا تتركيني خلف السياج كعشبة برية كيمامة مهجورة لا تتركيني قمرا تعيسا كوكبا متسولا بين الغصون لا تتركيني حرا بحزني واحبسيني بيد تصد الشمس فوق قوى سجون لا تتركيني